or stories that us or yourselves choose. You can find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Take a seat, get yourselves and your opinions ready, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your hands together for your hosts, Shane, Phil, and Scott, as they kick off this week's discussion.
Hello and welcome to episode 47. Can you believe it? 47 of year 2. Now, we've all had some mathematical blunders throughout this show. We all have, especially myself, but I've done this beforehand. 47 plus 52 makes it 99. It's our 99th episode, which makes next week a big, special, anniversary type? Not an anniversary.
It's a milestone.
It's a milestone. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Scott. Next week, 100. Outstanding. But we'll get back to that later on. We will let you know what we're doing with that. This week, we are continuing on with our Spider-Man wave, and we have picked Ultimate Spider-Man. It is written by Brian Michael Bendis, but there's a huge, big creative team involved in this. And just have to bear with me because there's quite a lot of names here. So, the story apparently was by Bill Jemas and Brian Michael Bendis, but Brian Michael Bendis is the writer. We've got Mark Bagley on pencils, and Art Thibert and Dan Panasayan on inks, I believe. Colors by Steve. Scott, you're good at that. You could do that name.
Buccellato.
There we go.
No, I haven't got that wrong.
And others.
Buccellato.
Yeah. And others, because there's a huge ream of people on this, And that is the Ultimate Spider-Man. Power and responsibility, which is quite ironic because you guys live on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, you will have the power and responsibility to decide what we're reading next week because we have no idea. That lies with you. So again, we'll get back to that at the end of this show after discussing this book. So, Ultimate Spider-Man. I'll give a synopsis first, or should I see who's in the chat? I'll do that first. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'll introduce who's with me on the panel tonight. I'm getting all flustered. Sorry, guys. Join me as always. We have Shane.
Oh, hoi.
And we have Scott.
Shemai, everyone. How you doing?
Now, you join us in the chat tonight. There's quite a few. It seems to be pumping, this chat. Let's get to the start of that. We have James Copley and Heidi Hi Campers. And Funky Gibbons, Liam, Heidi Ho. Sonic's Comics is here. Sorry, Martin. Sonic's Comics. Lewis Deegan, Heidi Ho, or Heidi Do. Kevin Wells. Hi everyone. Flip. Yeah. We have Branded One Arch. Hello everyone. Great pick this week. It is, isn't it? Thanks. I picked.
Here we go.
Don't start already.
Everyone put yourselves on full screen so we can see how big Phil's head gets.
It is massive. Dominic, the comic book report. Hey. He's in great choice as well. He says, gents, Dominic, I picked this book.
He's on time.
Me. Okay. And you're on time. Excellent. He's been on time quite a few weeks now.
Let's not ignore his other comment saying that he's really enjoyed the Spidey Wave. And I'm sure he gave my pick last week 9.5. I'm pretty sure it was him. So, less of that, please.
I mean, Scott, now who's got the big head now, eh? We'll make you full screen to see the size of your head.
Yeah, one time in 99 episodes.
We have Bethany is here. I haven't seen her in a while. Hey, Bethany. And I think that's everyone. Nope. Rob Byrne. Hi, guys. Love this run on Spider-Man. Let's see if we all love it, shall we? And, we'll start with Shane, because I think, Shane, you've read this originally.
What's it about?
Oh, yes. What's it about? See, guys, I'm all flustered. It's the 99th episode. It's the excitement building up for next week. But yes, the synopsis of this book is, as you would expect, it's the new retelling origin of Peter Parker and how he becomes Spider-Man. And the company that's responsible, I suppose, from the for the spider bite is trying to initially try to kill him. Then they're trying to study him. And then, of course, they then use his what you call it, the incident to kind of replicate that, to kind of boost whatever Norman Osborn wants to do. And then it's just all about Peter Parker and how he copes with his new strength and, I was going to say wisdom, but he's still quite dopey. Just kind of going through school, dealing with that. And then, of course, the inevitable Uncle Ben incident which occurs in this. But yeah, it's a complete retelling for the modern age. Say modern age, it was the year 2000, but it's certainly, I think, still stands today. But yeah, that's the origin retelling. Shane, take us away.
Oh, I loved it. This is my Spider-Man. This is my Spider-Man run. This is what I was reading when, Marvel Comics was at its height for me. I read, I think it's like 130 or odd issues for this. Ran for like the whole of the noughties, and I absolutely loved it. So it's really hard to just score this volume because I know what happens and I know how the story progresses and ends. So I'm going to have to try and, keep myself calm and not spoil anything for a 10-year-old storyline. But
20
I absolutely loved it.
20,
oh yeah,
22.
Well, I mean, it ended in like 2009, so
yeah.
like 13 years. But yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Cool. Shane or Scott?
Well, it's interesting. Like, so Shane says this is his Spider-Man, and I kind of want to say the same because one, I have not read this, but for me, I was getting a lot of memories when I was watching the old Tobey Maguire films, and I was like, he gets bitten, he starts wrestling, Uncle Ben dies, and then so a lot of he fights the people in the school and stuff like that. So a lot of it is reminiscent to the films. So also for me, this is the kind of Spidey I'm more comfortable with out of everything we've read for the last couple of weeks. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed.
You see, that's one of the points I've written down. Like, I was born 1986. When this first came out, I was 14. That's like the perfect age to capture kids at comics, I think, And, if you were a fan of the 90s cartoon, if you were a fan of the Tobey Maguire movies, what came out, was it 99 that came out?
2002. It came out after this. This is
really?
the inspiration for the Tobey Maguire movies.
That just kind of avoids my point I was trying to make, but we'll go with it. Basically, I was a fan of Spider-Man before this came out, just based on the kind of the promotion Marvel do, the kind of, the TV shows, the merchandise, whatever. But if you'd have given me a Silver Age book at the age of 14, I would have just looked at it and threw it away. I wouldn't have read a Silver Age Spider-Man story because I think it's just too old for that age. So the idea that this has come out and it's just captured a whole new audience for Spider-Man, written in a way that is modern, like even like today's standards. The only thing they're missing was TikTok, to be honest. But everything was pretty much, you could kind of replicate this today, the same story. So, like I say, they captured that audience, and then obviously they made the movies from it. And Scott, you mentioned Tobey Maguire movies. I actually seen a lot as well in the Andrew Garfield stuff too. Yeah. Because there are slight differences, but you can definitely see both of these movies kind of playing their part. Well, this playing their part in both those franchises.
There's actually a little bit from the Tom Holland one as well later on in the run when Spider-Man is stopping a store robbery and they're wearing the Avengers masks, like in.
See, I love that because I watched all the Batman movies before I ever read Dark Knight Returns and Year One, and when you watch these movies and you go back and read these stories, you think, oh, that's from they used that in the movie. It's class. I love that. And the fact that they've done that, and obviously a few things here in this story, that's what I like. It's like it kind of gets you a wee bit. I know this,
because you want it to be referenced, don't you? If it's going to be a film or a TV show about one of your favorite characters and stuff you've read, you want to see them referring to material because that's what you've read and that's what you hope it would be.
100%.
Later on down the line, Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire make an appearance in this book as well.
Shane promised us no spoilers.
Yeah, what the hell?
He's now give us two.
Jesus, you need to stop. Volume 1 only, okay?
I just love this series. I'm so sorry.
See, the other thing is too, like Kev, I think he said recently in his Instagram post that this was the story that got him into comics. Is that right?
Yeah, he's also said it in the chat here today.
Yeah, and the same with, I know, Mad Dog Comics on Instagram and YouTube. He said the same thing recently. And again, we're all kind of the same age bracket, and that's where I was going with in terms of it just captured all the kind of youngsters at that kind of age. This book was it. My problem was I didn't read comics back then. If I had read comics, this would have been right up my street. I just came to it slightly late, but definitely I think this book was kind of targeted for our age group at that time, obviously.
So, is this your first time reading this as well?
Yeah.
Right, cool. I just wanted to gauge who I needed to fight if it was going to be like opinion purely based on the book, but he never read it before. So I'm just going to be fighting Shane. That's all.
Yeah. Shane would take you though.
Yeah, you would, especially in that vest. Jeez.
Yeah, you know. It's just, I think, it's a very highly regarded run. This, I think, a lot of people who have read it rave about it, and that's why I kind of wanted to read it. I've also had this thing that if somebody is passionate about a book or story, I want to feel that, which is why this has been on my radar for a long time. And the omnibus which I have came out recently. A reprint came out recently, and I think they're going to reprint the next few volumes of it as well, which I will definitely be getting. So yeah, looking forward to that. And like I say, this, even before the reprint, I think it fetched a pretty penny on the aftermarket because people just wanted the story. So it must be good, surely.
Sings its praises, isn't it?
If the hype's that good, it must be worth it. What do you guys think of the art?
Really liked it. Well, no, my hesitation there was I was just trying to remember if I recognized any of the artists' names, and I don't. I know reading this book as well, I was going through, we've read a lot now, and I'm expecting to see art that we've seen before in other books from people, but I've never seen this before, and what I noticed and what I liked was the detail we got in panels, and sometimes the lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a bad thing. Like, it was very well balanced. It was, you had the details in the panels that sometimes required it, and then for me, I thought they had more blank panels because they really wanted to show the focus on the people or thing in the panel.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked that, and I'm not usually one to catch that, but this did catch me. I loved any panels and pictures which were close up, because I learned very quickly that there was going to be a lot of grey detail, and just very smooth lines, and it just looked great. I think the one that comes to mind specifically is when Peter, he has his powers and his fingertips kind of rip the paint off the wall, like it's kind of like that, and I think he's cornered in his house, isn't it? And just how close that was, and just the detail in that, it was just awesome. I don't know what I liked about it so much, but it's just so detailed and vibrant and great.
Shane, you always kind of I was going to say you always had an opinion on the faces. It's one thing it stood out for me. I thought the faces looked really lovely. Like, I don't know what it was, like the texture, the kind of smoothness of the faces, they looked really good. Everything was in proportion. There was no wonky noses or chins or weird eyes. Everything just looked lovely.
Yeah, and
Totally
everyone
agree.
looked different.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell the difference between fellow children. Like, the adults looked older than the kids, but all the kids looked different. No one had the same face, because sometimes it's not an artist's fault. Like, you're trained to do a certain face. Like, some artists, everyone has the same face. Like, I think Michael Turner used to do it quite a lot. Like, all the men had one face and all the women had another face. Not a bad thing, because he's a great artist. But in this, everyone has a different face. You can identify who's who straight away. There was no confusion in any of the pages with anyone in the background. I love a chunky outline of a character as well, and like a normal proportioned body. Like, I know that sounds like the basic like one of a drawing, but we don't always get that. So a proper proportion to a body is absolutely a must. And the Spider-Man in this, like when he's in his costume, is flawless. Like, he's got the physique of a gymnast who would look like he was swinging around the city, contorting his body into all these weird shapes as he's swinging. He just looks great.
There was actually a scene in the book that I thought the exact same thing, and it's a bit strange, but like, he was in his bedroom or his basement playing with his webs in his underwear.
His tidy white.
Yeah, that was
I hated those.
Originally, I thought it was a woman.
But for me, that showed the kind of athletic nature of his body. The fact that this is the guy you would fully expect to do all those kind of weird poses and moves and swings through the city, because he has that kind of athletic look. And not obviously he's wearing tidy whities, which is strange. I mean, give him some proper boxer shorts, but I just thought that kind of highlighted the fact that he could do those things. Allow me just to catch up some comments before it runs away with me. The Comic Book Report is saying it's crazy that this is already over 20 years old. It is. Kevin, he recently read the whole run. He said it's brilliant. Branded One Arch. I am not a big Spidey fan, but I couldn't put this down. That's good. It's a sign of a good book, that. You can't put it down. Sonic's Comics is saying you can see how this origin has influenced all the Spidey movies. Yeah. Let's just see if it's run away from me. And Lewis Deacon has agreed with us. He said, like that the films reference this book, but it's kind of took me out of it because I felt like I knew exactly what was going to happen. Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, I think the origins pretty much nailed on. I suppose it's the different nature of how it happened, and there were some subtle differences to the whole kind of story that I suppose kind of keeps you in the book, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah. I think we can kind of sing the praises of this book based on what was it, Kev's and I think it was Dominic's comment about how 20-year-old this book is, and he's recently reread it, and it just shows how timeless this is and how timeless it can be, and for people to be that into it, and like you said as well, Marcus as well reread the books lately, and it's just, it must say something good about the book. 100%. The only, like you said, it doesn't have TikTok, it doesn't have smartphones, but do we need all of our comics to incorporate modern things? It's just, it is just a really good book.
I was getting very much Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Volume 1 vibes in terms of the kind of teeny high school kind of vibe, obviously. And like Spider-Man, obviously, when he was originally bitten, was a teenager, but he had to grow up fairly quickly. In this volume, you don't really see him all of a sudden become like a superhero. It's obviously the early transition from being like a kid who's kind of has everything sorted out, then goes with a meltdown, and then becomes the hero type of thing. Yeah. Which is good, but again, it kind of had that teeny feel to it. Again, very much catering to my age bracket at that time. Lewis Deacon makes a good point, which I want to bring up, because he says also, why was Uncle Ben an absolute hunk? And to be honest, he was.
How else do you call Aunt May?
But I have it written down that Uncle Ben was like that really cool, like father figure. Like he didn't, scold Peter all the time. He kind of seemed like more level-headed. I actually have written down here that cool Uncle Ben and whiny Aunt May, because I thought she was a bit too stark at times. And,
very mothering.
Yeah, but like not like in the like you're going to push them away forever kind of way.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me think that there's got to be at some point the transition again from him, like not him, like us, the reader, feeling more for Aunt May, because she's going to find herself, I'm sure, in a lot of tricky situations that Peter has to kind of save her from. So we need, as the reader, to care about her slightly. I didn't in this volume. More about Uncle Ben, but again, maybe in her grief going forward, we will have more feelings towards Aunt May. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think that was the point. You had to care for Uncle Ben for, the big shock. Oh no, Uncle Ben's dead. If you didn't care about him, if it was done off screen or if it was done pre-issue 1, if he was already dead, it wouldn't have the same impact. You get to know him, get to know what a nice person he is, and what an absolute hunk. So it's like a double loss.
And also a point that we made last week about Harry. It's mentioned Norman here. But Harry, and Norman, they didn't have the awful swiggy hair.
That's one of my notes. Harry has normal hair.
They had proper hair, like normal colors, normal shades, normal designs, whatever you want to call it. Great. Wednesday spoiler has joined us this week. Says art's good, but everyone looks 30 years old. Could be the hairstyles. But we're liking the hairstyles. Again, we don't like the typical Harry and Norman Osborn, whatever that's called. We like this hairstyle. Yeah, cornrows come later. I can just foresee it now.
No, I can assure you they do not. Don't read this book for
spoilers.
Harry.
That's 3 spoilers.
Oh my God.
One more, Shane, and you're getting booted off the stream.
You were going to take points off your score.
No, we're going to add points. That's the only way to punish him. So you're going to higher. So, shall we move on to some glorious art that we were
cool.
sent in by some readers and also ones we picked ourselves? If I could find it. I'm going to start first because I think this is kind of touching on what Scott had said. This is the, for one, the colors is fantastic, but what Scott had said about the kind of plain panel, like that kind of background where you just have this kind of light effect, and but it's focusing very much on like the center stage of Spidey throwing this big wrestler out of the ring. And another point, which I thought, with the faces in the bottom panel, they all look different, and almost like they all feel like their expressions are slightly different too, in terms of what they're thinking. Like they all seem a bit shocked, but one seems a bit more shocked than the other, and one seems a bit like, this is just more interesting. Let's make it worse. I want to have this guy get hurt. Like you can tell, it's like an enjoyment shock in a way. Like the blonde girl, and I just find the faces were all different. And again, it's the colors where he pops out, and this guy just holding a big wad of cash, like in the middle of the ring. Like, what is he doing? But yeah, I just love the colors. I love the outfit he's wearing, even though it's kind of thrown together. And that background again, because I think it's something that you've used, Scott, in the past in comic airwaves, that kind of comic booky look, that kind of flash.
Yeah,
look.
It is a very common thing you see with like thumbnails that people use for YouTube and comic stuff like that as well. And maybe people have taken inspiration from this to have that kind of. It has see that kind of image, that kind of gradient, like burst image, and it is kind of, you do kind of think of promotional images that we see now.
Cool. I like that.
What I love about the costumes, that's like the first one, isn't it? The original costume for Spider-Man. But then what was great about this book is that you see so many iterations in it. You see, do I really mean so many? You see 3.
Well, you see, he wears all black as well in one of the scenes. Where he's kind of testing out, I think, his kind of gymnastic powers, which I think we actually have.
Yeah.
This is Andrew.
Yes, branded one arch.
And did he leave some comments for you, Scott?
Yes, you've totally thrown me now.
Sorry.
But that's okay. From the top of my head, pretty sure all that he says is, I love a good training montage. And that's what he said. He said he loves a good training montage.
Yeah. Again, I suppose you could call it an outfit. A Spider-Man outfit, a training outfit, if you will. Like, it's one of those things, if they were to release action figures or Marvel Legends based in this series, there's 4 already. They all black, the thrown together suit. The suit they got initially, they had no webs and no symbol on it, and obviously the kind of final suit we got. But this page, I thought, again, was class. Just the idea, like, again, the training montage, jumping from the top, the way he lands, the kind of shadows, it just looks really cool. Loved it.
I love the face in the bottom corner, just sort of that, I actually did it face.
He's like,
he weren't too sure if he was going to make it.
Yeah. And he's nailed it.
And we mention quite often that there are books that we read that you can literally pick any page. I think this is one that, like, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 separate pages here to show. Like, there's no multiples, there's no duplicates. It's just like there's so many you could easily pick, which is great. I will go with Scott now. Again, to touch with the suit.
So I like this because I've always been fascinated with the different uses that Peter comes up with for his webs. And this was kind of like, in this story, this was like the most, creative and versatile one for the situation he was in, and it was awesome. I think this is the last. Is this the last issue?
Yes.
This happened. So this is the title page for the last issue, and you kind of see the process. So he's sticking his web to one wall, and then you see stick it to the other, and he does it so much that it creates like some sort of netting that is stretchy and elastic and will trampoline him back into the sky, back into the fight with the goblin. And that action pose there, and his costume, and the colours, and the shading, and just the fact you've got some detail with the building, but you've got the rest of the blue behind him, that kind of gradient blue, and it's just an awesome page. I really enjoyed all of the action poses in this, and it's just really fun, really great.
The word fun, I think, is that's probably the best way to describe a lot of the story and the art, to be honest. It was quite fun throughout the whole book. But yeah, this scene was really cool. I suppose we're just kind of don't want to touch too far into the writing, whatever, but I found this book whenever Spidey was kind of learning to do things with his webs. Like he didn't really think about swinging from the webs until he had to, So it's like that kind of progression of like, okay, I have this. How do I use it, and how do I use it for the means that I need it for, type of thing.
And it all seems so natural as well. His kind of progression with how he was learning about what he could do with his powers, and then what he could do with the web shooters. Because unlike the Tobey Maguire films, these are shooters, not coming from his wrists.
Or anywhere else on his body.
Let's keep that. And it was cool. Yeah, that everything just felt so natural and situational, and it was really good. Really,
like it didn't feel rushed. Like again, with both movies, you have this point in the film, and obviously it's a film, it's different, where they set aside a few minutes, like a training montage, like we said, and they've just like nailed everything. All of a sudden, they just know how to do everything. But this book is the opposite of that. It's again whatever situation he finds himself in, it's how he kind of deals with it at the time, using the tools he has. Maybe we'll Shane. Shane,
I love emotion page. I mean, just the blurs of the fight. He's fighting. Oh my god, my brain has just completely turned off. Flash Thompson.
Oh, is that? Yeah, sorry.
So Flash has been picking on him since the start of the book, and it was quite hard to read, like how abusive everyone was towards Peter before he got bit. And he's had enough, and he just defends himself this time, and it just looks fantastic. Just one-handed, just grabs him and just flips him, and the motion in every single panel I think is great.
That's Kong, right?
Was that Kong?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
That's confused me. Sorry.
Don't make him hate the page, Scott. You do it every time. You make someone hate their own page.
You're not going to make me hate this page. I thought it was great. I know he's not in Spidey costume. I know this is Pete, and you don't even see Pete's face, but it's just such a good show of motion on this one page.
I love as well, like after this scene, like, and obviously Peter joins the basketball team, but like Kong almost had like new respect for him, almost. Like it's just like, no, he's all right, leave him alone. Like he'd stay at my house if you want as well, It's like completely like difference after this incident where he realizes I just got my ass handed to me.
Pete's become top dog, isn't he? So
Shane, will I show your second page, or shall I leave it towards the end?
It's up to you. I couldn't not add that page.
Yeah, it's a good reveal. We'll leave it to the end. So we'll go with Kev. Kev sent this in.
Cool. So Kev said for this, I like the action on this page, and I think the size difference between Spidey and the Goblin adds extra tension to the fight.
Yeah.
Really good.
It does. It's like a good old kind of like David Goliath type of battle where like you think the small man's going to be squashed, but he's a match.
Yeah. And I love the kind of, I don't know what to call it, like, like the orange blur throw lines of a Spider-Man just being launched. I really like that. It did seem a little bit solid, like it was an actual thing in the scene. But obviously, it's just trying to convey motion, but I did like that.
But it has that thing that we all like, where at the bottom panel, he's getting blasted or thrown out of the page.
Out of the margin, It's good,
just so much fun to look at. Like, even if you're not reading it, just to look at it is fun.
James sent this in.
Cool. So James had said, I thought as the whole story arc of Spider-Man goes through his history, his motivation to do good hinges on this moment in time. Uncle Ben dies, and he could have stopped the guy who did it, but he deemed it not my job. The realization that he has the power to help people and has the responsibility to help those that need it really is a wake-up call for Peter. Great book. Loved it.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Spider-Man Blue flashbacks then.
Yeah, I know.
And quite traumatic.
Yeah, because he sent that page before I had read it, before he sorted all the pages out. And just a quick look, I saw a lot of blue, and I was like, wait, did he pick Spider-Man Blue? No, he didn't.
So we'll end our discussion on the art with Shane wanted to show this, because you're right, you have to kind of show this. And this is a completely different version of Norman Osborn's Goblin, but here we go.
Look
That's
at that.
just, looks fantastic. It's raining. I love a good rainy scene. If it's not snow, I'll settle for rain. That looks great.
I just think he looks so much more terrifying than this scrawny little green guy on a hoverboard. You know, he actually looks like a Spider-Man foe, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, this confused me reading this because I've never seen this type of goblin, this iteration of Norman Osborn being the goblin. So at first I was like, who is that? I can't remember his name now, but there is kind of like another demon type thing, and he's part of the DC universe, and he kind of looks similar to this. That's the one, yeah. So that's who I went to initially. I know it's DC, but that's who I thought of straight away. So it took me... I didn't actually click until a few pages in, and I was like, oh, this is actually Goblin, this is Norman Osborn. It took me a while.
He's still got the colour scheme, the green and the purple.
Yeah.
So they've kept, you know, some aspects and just decided to make him a lot more dominating on the page, which I appreciate.
And see, that's what I like about this Ultimate universe, whatever. But they can do little tweaks with like already established characters or whatever. Like they can change things around just to kind of... Listen, it's a clean slate almost. Yes, it's Spider-Man. Yes, Uncle Ben dies. Yes, that's his motivation. Great power, great responsibility. But if we want to change a few things, we could do that. And that, again, like you said, it looks a lot more menacing. Like, again, the wee scrawny kind of Green Goblin throwing a few wee lanterns about. You kind of think, or pumpkins about. You kind of think yourself, surely Spidey could deal with that, no problem.
Yeah.
But this guy certainly looks a lot more threatening. And yeah, I just thought it was really, really cool.
It's a really challenging character to have as your first main villain as well. You know, this guy was massive, and Peter had no idea what to do. You know, and he thought of all these new things to do, and a lot of it was in the air. a lot of this fight was airborne, so it must have been really hard. And yeah, it was really fun to read.
Branded One Arch says that he was going to send in the MJ consoling Peter page. I almost picked that as well because that was fantastic. Again, just that just I love emotion in books, you know, and that's an emotional moment because they don't say anything really. They just don't mention Uncle Ben and then just hug, fall to the ground with a big spotlight on top of them. I thought it was great. Yeah. There's a lot of compliments about my page usually, as expected. The rest of my page is great. So yeah, that leads us nicely on to the art, or sorry, the story overall and the writing. What did you guys think? I mean, do you think, like, so that change to Goblin, do you think there were many changes to what kind of is known in the Spider-Man universe?
Yes. Well, this is what I wanted to ask you a question, right? Based on a question that I asked you last week when we were reading Spider-Man Blue. And I asked you, in the Spider-Man kind of, you know, history, who came first, MJ or Gwen?
Mm-hmm.
And you told me Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm reading a rewriting of the origin of Spider-Man, and who comes first? Who don't we see? We do not see Gwen, and MJ is only there. So, what the hell?
This is the real universe, Scott.
Ah, right,
this is the correct universe.
No, don't listen to Shane. Yes, this is his favourite. But no, to be fair, you do see Captain Stacy in this. So Gwen's there somewhere, just not in this story. She's still in the school or whatever. But yes, I'm assuming Shane, don't want to spoil that for us too. Does Gwen come into this at some stage? There we go. So yeah, I could see obviously from that point of view, it's quite confusing because Gwen did come first. He is Peter's one true love, regardless of what Shane says.
That's a different universe. This is the ultimate universe. So you're allowed to tweak things like you said. So they've tweaked that Mary Jane comes first and, you know, Gwen shows up.
See, that's kind of where I was with the movies as well, because the movies could be quite confusing in that, again, MJ came first in the Sam Raimi movies, and of course Gwen in the, I don't know, whoever made those movies.
Webb.
Yeah.
Something Webb. What was his name?
Oh, his name was Webb?
Yeah.
That's how he was born to do this.
Nice.
Yeah, that's why he was hired, because his surname's
You were
Webb.
hired. What's your name?
Well,
Peter Webb? Of course, come in.
But yeah, like, just, I mean, I love MJ, but I love Gwen. Like, I know last week Shane celebrated the fact that Gwen was dropped on her head from the tall bridge. But I'm Team Gwen, I think. That's actually one of the questions I have for Shane, just again based on that. I kind of wanted to know what you think about this, MJ, because last week, and I need to be careful here because this is obviously their 15-year-old in the story, whereas last week's story, MJ was very flirtatious and kind of forward. Yeah. Whereas this, she was quite, is the word, I want to say booky. Don't want to offend anybody, like you know, like a more bookworm type of girl, and it's completely different from last week's story. So what do you think of that? And you know, again, do we see her progression later on? Maybe, you know, what's
Of course, yeah, of course. I mean, this is volume 1 of 130 something issues. I can't remember exactly how many there are. So obviously every character is going to evolve past this point. But I think it was nice to see 15-year-olds acting like 15-year-olds. You know, they're not acting like 20 and 30-year-olds that are in school. They're not being overly sexual. They're not being, you know, they're not partying and drinking and drugs and all that malarkey. They're just being 15-year-olds at school that have 15-year-old problems, apart from Peter, who has, you know, superpower problems. But everyone else is just a normal teenager, and I like that. And she wasn't thirsty. She was just, you know, she liked a boy. It's as simple as that. There's no, hello, tiger, let me just see how many layers I can take off. And oops, I've dropped a pencil. There was none of that. It was just a 15-year-old. And I appreciate that. And the book grows with you, like I say. So as the issues go on, time passes and the characters grow. So you'll get to see some very interesting character developments.
Nice.
JD Smith, digital artist, has joined us from Twitch. And he's kind of, I need to defend these movies because I actually really like these movies. Imagine it's your namesake and you still managed to make 2 boring Spider-Man movies, obviously referring to the Andrew Garfield stuff, which I thought were great.
They were pretty good.
No, you didn't.
I really liked them. Yeah, they were.
No, they weren't.
Yes, they were. They're just different, but
I would watch Spider-Man 3 100 times instead of watching another Amazing Spider-Man movie.
You're talking out of your hat, Shane. Go away. Like, no way. Like, admittedly, like I know they didn't get as much praise, and they're probably not as good as the Tobey Maguire stuff. But I really enjoyed them, and again, I cried. I cried a lot in Amazing Spider-Man 2 when, spoiler, Gwen. Yeah, as Shane celebrated, I'm sitting in the cinema, burning my lamps out. He's sitting going, yes, come on.
I started a Mexican wave at the cinema when she died.
Oh my god.
And there's Liam. I thought I liked you. He's agreeing. The Amazing Spider-Man films were trash. Wow. God, I thought I had friends here.
Cool. All right. Well.
Yeah. Where do I go? I don't even know where to go from here on in. That's me.
I'd like to agree with what Lewis said here. He said he much prefers this version of MJ, and it's a little bit more bearable for me. It seems she seems more believable, more realistic, more normal, you know, and not just this, like you said, over flirtatious. I refuse to use the word thirsty. Over flirtatious woman who just comes on, not even a little bit too strong, just comes on very strong, and it kind of thing like she knows what she wants. But then MJ in this still kind of gave that vibe that she knows what she wants. She wants Peter, but she was very nice and calm and considerate towards the whole thing. It was sweet and it was cute and it was nice. None of this, hey Tiger, wanna come have a fun time with me over here, you know? And it was just, you know, hey, you wanna hang out, you wanna come study, you know, you wanna just get along, you know what I mean?
What 15-year-olds do when they like people, you know, you try to spend a little bit more time with them and figure out if they like you too.
Still learning.
Yeah. But the good thing about kind of touching on what Scott's saying is that, you know, last week's book, for example, you got the impression that MJ hasn't been involved in Peter's life for years, if at all. And all of a sudden just weighs in and starts calling him Tiger and, you know, like I say, taking her clothes off or whatever and being really overly flirtatious, where this seems like she's a friend first. Yes, she's interested, but she's like, I'm your friend, we're neighbours or whatever. Or I don't know if they're neighbours, but they're obviously close. The families were close, but like there's something there to build on as opposed to just enter my life and, whoa, she looks good, I like her. And I am torn between the woman I love and this this sexy redhead. It's just like there was a foundation for them to build on, which I think, again, using the word sweet, at 15-year-olds, that should be sweet and cute, that kind of romance, rather than anything other than that. So yeah, I really liked her, even though she wasn't pivotal at any stage, other than the fact that she's there to comfort Peter for that one scene. But again, I imagine we're going to see a hell lot more off her going forward, and look forward to it. One thing I want to touch on, which I quite liked, is the kind of different stages of the story, and that obviously had him getting bitten by the spider, kind of getting bullied at school, but then obviously kind of another kind of arc where he's kind of dealing with his newfound powers and strengths and whatever else. And then the last part where he becomes Spider-Man, we kind of touched on earlier on, like he's learning things as he goes along. And there wasn't too much humor until that stage. It was kind of quippy kind of lines he was making. Again, they weren't irritating this time. They weren't annoying. They were actually quite smart. But one of the scenes was like, I think it was the last issue, I believe, and Goblin was attacking the school. And he bursts through, this big scene. But then it's almost like a pause, as if he's like breaking the fourth wall almost. And he pauses and think, well, I can't just do this from the school building because they're going to put two and two together. So he had to figure a different way. So he walks out the window, crawls behind all the cars, and comes from a different direction. And I think he said it's like he's going to have to work better on his system for emergencies. And again, that's funny. Like, that's comical for me that he can kind of do this. Whilst the big fight scene, it's like, hold on, it's such an emergency. The school's on fire. There's this big beast attacking everyone. I need to walk around here first, so people don't think Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I think that's fun.
Well, exactly. I mean, he's bitten by a spider in front of everyone. He's like torn his desk in front of everyone. He's like trounced the biggest bully in the school in front of everyone.
Carrying the basketball team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if Spider-Man just showed up, everyone would be like,
Wait a minute.
I think that might be Peter.
Yeah. But there was also that line, where he takes his clothes off to, to get the Spider-Man costume on, and then he says something like, "Oh, I bet Captain America doesn't do this." I think that was great. I really liked the smoothness of how various relationships changed from issue 1 to issue 7, and the ones I've written down, obviously Mary, you can tell that she's always liked him before him having powers, and then she was even like when after he got his powers, and then he was very like sport focused and started to focus on a lot of other things. You could see her change, be like, whoa, now, like, why are you doing all this? So that was one thing I quite liked. And then his relationship with the basketball coach, that was quite interesting. Obviously, didn't respect him at all as a sportsman. And then
did he call him a woman, or like he called him a girl or something? Didn't he, or something like that?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he wants him to be a star player the next day.
Exactly. And then you've got the thing with Kong then, where he's like, he's back in Flash Up in school, with all these little fights and arguments and everything. And then he was really chill about him just staying the night, and when he needed somewhere to stay, and now because he's on the basketball team, you got to look after your teammates and stuff like that. And it was great. And then you kind of see changes in Peter's personality as well. And one thing I wanted to bring up, when you talked about him kind of making these little sarcastic comments and stuff, I really liked it that they kind of justified it, that he was only saying them because he was really nervous or scared or anxious or panicky and stuff like that. And it kind of made me think of the Power Ranger stuff, where that's why Zach has so many sarcastic lines when he's fighting. It's just because he's totally nervous. So I kind of, that's cool. I like that. I like the justification for the sarcasm. It's not just, oh, well, he's put on this suit now, and now he's just being sarcastic as hell all the time, and then when he's not wearing the suit, he doesn't. I like that.
Yeah, that's fair, because again, we touched on it last week, Nick, before, that the kind of sarcasm, the quips, the jokes can be quite irritating, but when you put it like that, where he's coming up with this because he is nervous fighting this big beast for the first time, it makes complete sense.
You could take it to be the more sarcasm, the more one-liners, the more nervous he is.
Yeah.
But, I think our first book for this wave, for Spider-Man Wave, was too much, I think. And then this week and last week, they've been good. They've been a good, steady, flow, and just not in your face with all these jokes.
I wonder if that's why it's quite hard to write Spider-Man well, because
you got to be
again, it's a fine line. Exactly, it's got a fine line between being funny and clever and just being irritating. And you could have this big evil villain, this big storyline, but if your main character is really irritating, you're not going to root for him to win. Yeah. I think that is a really fine line. I think why, because there are some Spider-Man writers have arguably failed at being Spider-Man writer because they do make him more irritating, and as a reader you don't really care for if he wins or loses. But this version, again, as we said last week, smart, clever and funny. Thumbs up.
Definitely.
Shane, do you agree?
Yeah. This is my Spider-Man, so I'm agreeing with all you have to say about this book. I love it. This book it breaks your heart from, like, you see the fun side of it, like he discovers his powers, he's having a great time. Then his character changes, like you say, he becomes a little bit too cocky and too arrogant. He's picking on the bullies, he's joining the sports team. He's wrestling in a mask, and he's like, he's being a little bit too heavy-handed with the wrestler in the ring. Like, he's like, don't throw me too hard. He's like, oh, you're being a big baby. So you can see it's gone from confidence to arrogance. And it's a shame, because obviously he was such a nice kid, but ultimate power corrupts ultimately. So it does, until he has his fall, and you're having fun along the way with him. And then you are a bit like, Peter, you need to calm down. This isn't who you should be. And then his uncle dies, and he, like, that scene where he's running to the house is heartbreaking, as he's like just, trying to get into the house to see what's happened. And you feel for him, because that all that arrogance is only because of his powers. He would never have been like that otherwise. He's such a nice kid. Yeah. And then he calms down again, and he becomes real Spidey, real Peter Parker. And it's just such an amazing growth in such few issues. Right. To do that, to make you fall in love with a character that you thought you knew, or that you do know in another universe. I know it's slightly different, but to fall in love with him after 5 issues, fantastic work.
One thing I'd written down, actually, you mentioned the wrestlers, and it happened just before Uncle Ben's death that they turned on him. So I'm wondering, now you mentioned the arrogance, maybe they obviously just didn't take to him, because he did steal the money. They're obviously setting him up, accusing him of stealing the money from their purse, whatever. And I'm wondering it's because he was so arrogant to the wrestlers in the ring, so they turned on him. And then all of a sudden Uncle Ben died. So again, that's another change. Like, well, they don't like me because I'm being this and that, so maybe I should change my ways. And obviously Uncle Ben dies, and I realize he could have stopped it or prevented it. By all means, I agree with what you're saying. The falling of a character you already know, that's already established. That's already kind of tattooed in people's arms or whatever. Like, it's just yeah, you're right. You do fall in love with the character, and I think that's fantastic. One thing I wanted to ask Shane as about the universes, because I've been reading the comics for a few years, so I'm still relatively new. I sometimes do not get all the different universes and Earths. So like DC's like Earth 1 and Earth like 52, whatever it is. Marvel's the 616 is the main universe. So what's one is this, or do you know the number, or is there a number for this universe?
I don't know the number off by heart for the Ultimate Universe, but there is a number for it. Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Is it just called the Ultimate Universe? And also, does this, maybe people in the chat know, does this tie in with the Ultimates book that we read?
Yes.
Well, that's the same universe as that? Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. The Ultimates are this universe's Avengers.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So they're all the same.
You have Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four, the Ultimates. Yeah, they're all from this universe. Keep reading. You might see some guest stars pop up.
It's quite confusing,
Just at a quick initial look, I may be wrong, and I hope I'm not. The Ultimate Universe is Earth 1610.
But like, I wonder where they get the numbers from. Did they just make these up, or like, is there a reason?
They must.
They're probably like dates of births of their families and stuff.
Yeah,
because DC is like 1 to 52, super easy, and Marvel's like 616, 892, 14568. It's like, what are you doing? Just start at 1 and work up.
If anyone's listening, that must be Shane's passwords or bank details. Because he knows their numbers pretty quickly. JD Smith has commented on what we were saying about the kind of new writers and stuff. He says, I think it's hard for writers to, quote, kill their babies when it comes to quips in general. See every MCU movie. Not every character needs to be witty with the tongue. After so many, the character becomes obnoxious. And that's like I say, that's the fine line for me. Is between...
Yeah, like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man wasn't like overly quippy and like too much, whereas Andrew Garfield's, like, he was just
he was too much.
Oh, a knife! You found my 1 week. It was too much. It was
meant
that
to be
funny.
That was a cool scene. I agree, it was too much, but it was almost like too much too quickly as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the first time he's out in his costume, and it was like, no, you build up to the snarky, sarcastic comments.
At least Andrew Garfield didn't go to a jazz club, dye his hair black, and wear an all-black suit and go dancing in the streets of Manhattan. He didn't do that. So
I'll take that over hearing Itsy Bitsy Spider played as Spider-Man's being bounced around electrical antennas, and then 2 minutes later Gwen Stacy dies and I'm supposed to care. You just had a massive joke about Itsy Bitsy Spider being played, and now you expect me to care that Gwen Stacy just clapped off the floor. I don't care.
I gurned my lamps out.
How are you supposed to care after you just did a massive joke? And now I'm supposed to care. That's not how you kill someone off in a movie.
I kind of want to touch on this quickly before we run out of time as well. Like, I've written down Harry Osborn. So with the Tobey Maguire movie, with the Andrew Garfield movie, and with this and Spider-Man as we know it, it's like 4 different versions of Harry. Like, I get that would be slightly confusing because, again, in the first movie, he's his best friend. In the second movie, he's just someone he used to know when he was younger. And in this, again, he's just somebody who helps him through his schoolwork because he must be a bit of a douche himself, Harry, so he needs someone to help him through the science class. Again, no real connection to Peter as a friend. So it's hard to know, like, what is Harry meant to be? Even originally, I think Harry was Flash Thompson's pal, and he was a bit obnoxious and a bit arseholy. But here, again, another version of Harry Osborn. It's hard to know which one I like best. They're all kind of, they're all a bit awful, to be honest.
Yeah. Tom Holland hasn't met Harry yet, has he? He's not been in any of the Tom Holland movies.
Yeah, I was thinking. I couldn't remember any Harrys.
Yeah, that's true.
MCU. Yeah.
But there's still 3 more movies to come with him. James asked a question. If anyone knows, I don't know the answer. Is there an ultimate 616 crossover? I'm sure there probably is. I would imagine those worlds have bled into one another at some stage.
Kevin does answer it further down.
Oh. There's a crossover. 616 Peter meets Miles in the Ultimate Universe, and there's a Secret Wars crossover called Ultimate End.
Nice.
Ultimate End.
Nice. That kills the Ultimate Universe. No more Ultimate Comics after that.
Is it Secret Wars Ultimate? Is that what it's called? Secret Wars Ultimate End?
Secret War, the crossover is called that, but Secret Wars kills the Ultimate Universe, and we don't get any more after that.
Thanks. Spoilers. Still point reading the rest now. We know what happens. It all dies. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up before we go into thoughts and scores?
I do, but I think this is the book you could speak another half an hour to an hour about, and I think we've said all the things we really want to bring up, and just call it there, maybe. Yeah,
which is a good thing, because again, this is only the first volume of, like, what's it, 20? Is there 20 volumes in total?
A lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. So that's good. So, guys in the chat, if you've read along, if you have a score, fire it into the chat here, and we will collate your scores and add them of ours. Shane, do you want to give us your thoughts and scores, please?
Yeah, I'll go first. I love this whole run, but I'm only going to score volume 1, and it's really hard because I know what's coming. So I think I'm being generous with my score. I think I'm being as honest as I can. I can't ignore that I know what's coming, but I'm going to be super conservative with my score, because it would be higher if I was scoring the whole series as a whole, because there are some really good volumes to come after this, some great villains. It's well worth continuing with this universe. I love the art, I love the characterization of Peter, the growth, just the way he becomes Spider-Man. Nothing's easy. He doesn't just fall into it. He doesn't, he doesn't just become Spider-Man. He becomes Spider-Man, and that's what I really, really appreciate with this. I love it. But like I say, I'm going to be really good with my score, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
I've cut it down because I did have a I was like, I can't.
Just go your gut feeling, Shane.
No, because I can't score it on things that are coming, so I'm just scoring it on this one volume. So it's an 8 for volume 1.
So, guys, we have 2 scores in so far. Just remember to get them in as quick as you can. Scott, take it away.
Really cool book. Again, this is my Spider-Man, purely based on the films I grew up with. Really enjoyed it. Fantastically drawn. I loved, well, Shane said, the whole becomes Spider-Man, where it's all progressive and he's learning things through the issues, and we're seeing him learn these things. And again, it's emotional, and I love the relationships, and it's just a very cleverly thought out book, and you can tell that the creators care, and they were methodical, and they were careful with when they put things in and how they did it and what was said along those things happening. Really cool. But knowing the fact that this has got so much more to go, we've only read the first 7 issues and there's so many more. I don't want to sing its praises too much, and obviously there has to be wiggle room for future stuff. But it's going to be, I love the book. It's awesome, really fun. I would like to read on. It's an 8.5.
Ooh, nice. And we've got quite a few scores in, so thanks a lot, guys. If you want to get your score in, you have got 30 seconds, because I will be quick. I agree with everything Scott said, essentially, because I haven't read this before, so this is a good introductory story into this universe, which is very highly regarded. As she had mentioned, I love the idea that he doesn't just become Spider-Man, he becomes Spider-Man. That's a good way to put it, because you do see the progression, naturally progression to Spider-Man. Love the art. I mean, I can't fault any of the art. Everything just looked wonderful, even when the panels were different and they changed somewhat. They were all just lovely. It was great to look at. Relationships with Uncle Ben, I thought he was so cool. A cool father figure. Aunt May was whiny, but I do foresee she's going to change. And again, with Mary and with Kong and even with Flash Thompson, you can kind of see things starting to change slightly, and it just lays the foundation for, I'm hoping it's going to be a great overall story. So I was torn between 2 scores. I'm going to go with Scott and give it an 8.5 as well, because I think this could be really good, and I'm leaving some wriggle room for higher score for future volumes. So right. That is the scores. And as I was talking, of course, quite a few came in, so I'm going to double check I get them. So guys, whilst you've got them, excellent. Yeah. So whilst I go through this, guys, if you want to think about what books you want us to read for next week, because we don't know what it's going to be, and you guys have all the power and responsibility to pick what we're doing next week for Herd's Choice. So get your picks in. I'll go through. But
remember,
scores.
With great power comes great responsibility. So pick a good book.
It doesn't have to be Spidey related as well.
But it does have to be good.
Yeah. So let's go through the comments. So Branded One Arch, like I said, not a Spider-Man fan, but may have one of the greatest origin stories of all superheroes. Great story. Love the art of his suit. Goblin looked great as well. Easy 8.5. James, great story and art. I will continue the series. A 9 from him. Lewis has said 8. I enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this version of Norman, but when I compare it to the Spider-Man Blue, it doesn't quite match up for him. Kevin, 10 out of 10. I love it now, just as much as I did when I was 13. Giving away your age there, Kevin, because we're good at maths now. We established that at the start of the show. Liam, as has been said by others, this feels like my Spider-Man having grown up with the Tobey Maguire films. Hard for me to separate this book from the nostalgia, but an easy 9 from him. Martin, there's nothing bad except about this book. This is a great Spider-Man book. An easy 9 from him too. Chris from my shelves. Hello, Chris. 9 from me. Wednesday spoiler. Lots of Spidey this month. Had a fun, solid 8. Yes, this is our Spider-Man wave. We are celebrating 60 years of the web slinger. JD Smith has a satisfying 7. And I believe that's them all. Yes, is that right, Scott? You've got me. Okay, so with those scores, we get the average for the guys in the chat is 8.6. Does that correlate with your scores there,
yes,
Scott?
It does.
With my 8.5, Scott's 8.5, and Shane's 8. That gives us an average. Sorry, Scott, you're going to have to do some work on the top 10 this week. That gives us an average of 8.4.
Yes, it does.
That's fine, right? So I'll obviously give the game away here, but let's see where this comes in the top 10. It knocks off one of Scott's books. There we go. It knocks off one of Scott's books and actually goes right into 5th. Takes 5th spot. Is that right?
Yes.
Knocks down Wonder Woman Dead Earth. Nice. And not that it made this, but we'll go into the rest of the top 52 it's going to be, I suppose. There's the rest, but I don't go in there anymore. I only stick to the top 10 when it comes to my stuff.
Jesus.
I know. So yeah, that has been the Ultimate Spider-Man Power and Responsibility. Now we move on to the fun stuff. We have some picks for next week's books. And Scott, you're going to take us away and go through this, am I right?
Yes, sir. Let me just... Uh-oh. My screen's frozen. Yeah, the screen's frozen. Can't do a thing. Hopefully it'll unfreeze. But you can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Great. I can't see you or hear you. So, hopefully it'll... There we go. It sorted itself out. There we go. So, let's just share that. Okay. So we're going to get your choices on. So we've got quite a few. We've got Reckless from Martin, Stray Dogs from Wednesday, Daredevil Born Again from Lewis, Lazarus from James, Spider-Man Life Story from Kevin, and we've got Self-Storage from Beth and Die Volume 1 from Liam. Okay, are you ready to spin the wheel? See who gets Herd's choice? Okay, good luck everyone. Here we go. That's a lie. We're not doing Herd's Choice because next week we are going to be doing episode 100. And thank you for everyone who has just put their names down because we are going to be rewarding your loyalty. We wanted to thank you very much for everyone who stuck by and turned up and gave their opinions and choices for Herd's Choice. And we wanted to reward you. So that means everyone who just put their name down for a Herd's Choice, you will win a prize from myself, from Shane, and from Phil. There will be 3 prizes next week, and we will be spinning all of that at the end of next week's episode for episode 100. So, that leaves one thing. But guys, what are we reading next week for episode 100? Well, we've had a really long, hard think about what we should be reading, and without further ado, let's tell you. Here we go. And there we go. Surprise, surprise, everyone. If you've been following us from the very beginning, we like to do Secret Wars for special occasions, and we decided to do Secret War by Brian Michael Bendis. It isn't a Battle World type of story, but it is still Secret War related, so we're keeping to that theme for our big milestone of 100 episodes.
To be fair, that's the first time I've seen some of those screenshots, and it does look really, really good. I'm quite looking forward to it. Yeah. And I'm so glad it's not Battle World related. And Liam said he called it. And the good thing is, I forget who it was, sorry, in the chat earlier on, gave us another Secret Wars title. Was it Ultimate End? That's we've got the next few years lined up now for Secret Wars books. Excellent. So, folks, that has been the Ultimate Spider-Man. Next week is Secret War for our 100 episodes, guys. That's not to be bought. That's fantastic. And yeah, so thanks everyone who has continued to watch us and keep us on the airwaves, because we enjoy doing this, and it's you guys in the chat play your part. But we'll gush over each other next week. Let's just end this and get your waves out.
See you guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Love you.